Welcome to the Ideas on Stage podcast, your regular insight into leadership communication.
Hey, Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's great to be here.
We've been in contact for a few months now, so I was really looking forward to this conversation today.
So was I. I loved our conversation before and where we got to about how colour and confidence and speaking kind of plays a part. So it's really exciting to be now talking to you for your podcast.
Perfect. And I would like to start, Emily, with just a quick anecdote. It's something that happened to me some time ago. I was delivering one of our presentation skills workshops, and at the end of it, I got a question from somebody in the audience. And the question was, can you give me any tips and advice when it comes to what I should wear, what I shouldn't wear, particularly the colors I wear if I want to be able to deliver a great presentation? And my honest answer was, I have no clue. Like, I don't know. But I do know somebody who knows a lot about this, and that's why I wanted to have a conversation with you today. So for our listeners, today we are going to talk about the power of color and what's the link really between, you are a confidence coach, Emily, so also what's the link between color, the colors you wear, and your level of confidence.
That first impression is something that is so powerful. You can give the most brilliant speech, but actually that first impression when you walk onto the stage will be, for some people, what makes or breaks it for them before you've even opened your mouth.
Sure. And let's start with just a question, which is for me, really, just because I'm interested, not for our listeners today, which is like, if I think about our brand, Ideas on Stage, the color we chose many years ago was, and still is, orange. Mm-hmm. So based on your expertise, your knowledge into this space, and please, honestly, like, if you think about orange, mm-hmm. I'm interested now. What does that say about our brand?
Well, so orange is it's a warm color, okay? And it is between red and yellow. And it's it's halfway between red and yellow. It's a mix of the two colors, okay? And so it is an incredibly, it's not as ferocious and kind of powerful as red, which is a wonderful color for confidence, but it is a powerful color. It's also the color for stop. So it can be, it can be quite an aggressive color. And yellow is, the whole mellow yellow, the friendly, optimistic yellow. But what I love about orange is it's got that balance of the two. So it's both optimistic and an extrovert color. It's also a great color for taking action. So I would wear orange when maybe I'm working with a client who I just feel needs a little bit more motivation. Sometimes I wear it myself when I want to have a really productive day. So I would say the color, knowing what I know about what you do, it is a great color for your brand. And I think, brands often get really safe and stick with blue. If you think about big brands, they think, obviously, blue is the world's favorite color. And politicians wear blue for a reason. Twitter and Facebook and all the big companies, when you start to really look, they go with a blue because blue is safe. We trust blue, but actually orange is, I think, a super friendly color and is a great representation for your brand. So I think you got it spot on. I think if you're wanting to have energy and bring energy into your brand, orange is a great color.
That's great to know. And you mentioned a couple of words like friendly with yellow, which is also something that we wanted to evoke with our orange, and mm-hmm. energy, energetic. So that's great to know. And so then, is it really true then, because I'm not an expert at all here, that's why we've got you today, from a psychological perspective, so you mentioned blue is trust or safe, and yellow or orange, friendly, energetic. So is there, from a psychological perspective, a link between the colors we see and even the emotions that they evoke? Is that how it works?
Yep, it is exactly that. Colors can provoke an automatic response within us. They can make us feel warm. So those warm colors on the warm side of the spectrum will literally, if you had a red room, it will make you feel warmer than a blue room. So they bring about emotions within our physiology, which is what is so interesting. So again, if you're wanting to bring some warmth into a room, then those warmer colors. And it's this interaction between color and the human body, I think, is absolutely fascinating, and it's why I think color can play such a big part in life. You can wear a color and it can make you feel differently. So when I'm feeling a little bit blue, like a little low, especially in the winter, you'll find I wear a lot more of those warmer reds and yellows and oranges, and that is often to just bring my own mood up. I think it's something to try, right? I think it's definitely something that it's worth trying and notice what you notice. You know, it'll react with different people in different ways.
Yeah. So I see, looking at you today, that I'm only assuming that, let's say, your color is red. Is that correct? Is that your favorite or maybe the best color for you?
So when I want to bring confidence to myself, I wear red. When I'm presenting or doing something very exciting like this, I will wear my favorite red dress, which is this one. It's, you know, it's the one that fits well. I love the color. You know what, Andrea, everyone can wear red, your shade of red. Now, the reason I talk about shades of red, because actually my shade of red might be different to yours. And that's why I do color analysis with people to help them realize which shade of red they need. So for an autumn like me, it's a slightly orangey red. For a summer, which is a much softer pastel, a more pastel type red, much softer because of their skin tone and all sorts of things. But everyone can wear true red. So if you think about letterbox red, it's a red that's neither warm nor cool, and pretty much everyone can wear red, and everyone can wear that kind of little, instead of the little black dress per se, that, you know, there's always that saying everyone should have a little black red dress. Actually, everyone should have a little red dress. Everyone who wants to wear a dress should have a little red dress. But actually, I wear red for confidence. I wear red because it makes me feel like I can almost take on the world. But it's also because I have a tendency towards an extrovert personality. I'm a sociable introvert. So therefore, I'm very happy head to toe in red, whereas an introvert would never wear this much, but maybe they'd wear a red scarf or a red necklace or some earrings or nails, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah, this morning in preparation for our chat, I was looking for something colorful to wear, and the reality is that I couldn't find anything. I don't have anything. So it's something I need to consider for the future.
Well, yeah. And, you know, I mean, if we did your colors, we would be able to see which was your palette. And actually, then I think the thing about it is about trying. And if you're ever browsing in a store, or when you're shopping online, maybe not just always buying the navy shirt, and maybe trying a few other, you can always send it back. But actually then noticing, I mean, I'm going to do this for the purpose of the video. So I'm wearing my red dress because also in this situation, it means that I jump out, I pop out. Whereas if I was to wear a blue like you, I disappear a little bit. And for those who are listening, I'm putting a blue scarf up, and actually suddenly I'm literally a bit like a floating head. And I think if you were presenting, if you were doing a workshop, if you were standing on a stage, there's something about the power of the color that you're bringing to that stage, and people can see you. And if you're walking around the audience, again, you can be spotted. That's kind of how it can work to your benefit, to your favor. People will remember you. People refer to me when I go to networking events and think, oh, I remember you. You wear the red dress. Always wear a red dress.
I can see how that works. And thank you very much, Emily, for also making the connection to speaking and giving presentations, which is very much connected to what we do and the idea behind this podcast. And also, because you mentioned color analysis, which is one of the things you do with your clients, on your website, you often talk about wearing your best color or your best colors as opposed to maybe your, and this is just the way I looked at it, please feel free to correct me, instead of your favorite color, so your best color. So when you work with your clients and you do these color analysis, how do you go about finding the best color for any particular person?
So we all have different skin tones and we all have different personalities. And what I look at is a combination of all of this. So we look at hair color, natural hair color. We look at skin tone, and we either have a warm or a cool skin tone. And then when it comes to the analysis, a bit like I did with the scarf, I have drapes that I place on people under their chin. So literally this top half, because it's really the colors that you wear closest to your face. You can wear whatever you like down below. It doesn't reflect, but actually what we're looking for is the best shade of blue and green and red and yellow that's basically makes you look totally in harmony. So some colors will almost wear you, and some colors you literally, I do the analysis, we do it in, they've got no makeup on, they are in natural light, so no yellow light, and literally you can take one scarf off and put another on, and immediately lines and wrinkles and dark spots, they almost disappear. So it's like, it's magical in a world where we live, where people are really considering cosmetic surgery to enhance how they look and feel. Actually, I think the best place to start, which is actually far more economical in my opinion, because it's with you for life, right? Your colors are what you have for life. I can do a child today and they'll still be the same when they're old, even if they go gray. Is that actually you can wear colors that make you look healthier and younger before you get any kind of surgery. But that's obviously, everyone's different and everyone can do whatever they want, but actually color has a really powerful impact on how you look. And those are the colors that you wear closest to your face. So that's how analysis works. It doesn't take very long, it takes about an hour. And I then also combine it with what I know about someone's personality. They do a little personality test, but it does ultimately come down to the drapes, down to the fabrics, and we're looking for that harmony and that kind of wow. You can't ignore it when you've seen it.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, because you mentioned makeup, is this something that mainly or even only women want to do, or you've got men as well? Yeah.
Oh yeah, men, and men are even better, because I mean traditionally they take less of an interest, but actually get a man in the right colors, and actually it's like you look younger, fitter, healthier. Especially with beards and jawlines, it can be really interesting. But obviously, naturally, there's less men coming forward. But often, I did a man a few weeks ago, and you know, he made him realize that actually those shirts and tops that he was wearing weren't quite right, and he was able to recycle them and take them to the charity shop. And actually, the confidence of them going into your wardrobe and knowing that everything you've got in there suits you, looks great. It makes making decisions in the morning much easier. So when you have that kind of busy life, and actually we all have a bit of a uniform, you know, I think yours is a blue shirt, mine when I'm doing this kind of thing is certainly my red dress. But I think even in day-to-day working life, wouldn't it be nicer to be able to just know that your whole wardrobe is wearable? And that whole thing about don't save best for best, I just think I wear my favorite clothes all the time. I don't really save anything for best, apart from my sequin skirt, which can only really come out at party time.
And Emily, before you said that certain colors can actually make you feel different. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, and if this question goes nowhere, please feel free to tell me. I've got many others. But from what actually happens, maybe if something happens in a brain scientifically or maybe psychologically, what actually happens for us to actually feel differently, or for us to to feel different, maybe emotions, or maybe you said before that there is a connection between the colors you wear and also your level of confidence. What's happening there?
Okay, I'm going to untangle that a little bit. So, because there's quite a lot of things in there, I think something that really just jumped to me is that, like you said, you know, we all have favorite colors and then we have our best colors. Often, luckily, the colors that are your favorite colors become your best colors, because actually you realize you do feel good in them, and they do make you feel more confident or better about yourself. But I also think, kind of wrapped up in that, when we think about kind of what happens within us, is actually we also have color associations. Now, I don't know if you wore a school uniform, Andrea, but I did. It was navy blue, and it was a horrible shade of yellow shirt. So as a autumn, I need to wear a kind of mustard yellow, whereas I had a canary yellow shirt for school. And so my color association with yellow, up until a few years ago, was very, very negative. I didn't go anywhere near it. And actually, I had this color association. I had this absolute block that stopped me from wearing a certain color because there was something in my past. And I've, since doing the analysis and speaking to people, so many of us have these associations, and everyone's like, oh, I once wore that color and something disastrous happened, so now I have an association with it. So that does wrap up with our emotions and how we feel. And so actually, yeah, so I think when you kind of ask about what actually happens to us, you know, it is pretty deep rooted, and it can be very historical as to how we kind of feel about colors and what they do to us kind of internally. I would also, though, say, you know, it is worth then even looking at your wardrobe as it is now and trying things on and go, how do I really, like, you have to be very honest with yourself. Like, does this really make me feel my absolute best? Or I'm going in to do this scary presentation or scary meeting or new client or standing on a stage, and actually, you know, thinking back then about that first impression and that how it affects you, because things like blue can slow down your breathing. It has this effect to calm you down, whereas the red will raise the temperature of the room and make you feel kind of a bit like caffeine can give you that kind of that hit. So yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, but I think, you know, there's an awful lot in there, and I think there's so much to think about, but it is also about just being really honest with yourself. Does this make me feel my absolute best? Yes or no? No? Well, then let's say thank you very much, like Marie Kondo says, thank you very much, and actually put it to one side. And I always say to clients, if they end up with just one or two of a very small wardrobe after having a moment in a good kind of declutter, at least they've got somewhere to start from, and that everything in their wardrobe does make them feel good and make them feel their best.
I like the coffee analogy. And also, again, if we think about, let's say, public speaking in general, it doesn't have to be a keynote presentation in front of 1,000 people, like any kind of presentation. Now, so far, mainly, we've been talking about how the colors you wear makes you feel. Mm-hmm. Now, can you tell us something about what happens to the audience if something happens? So again, do the colors we wear also have an impact on how the audience feels? For example, in a presentation. Now, it doesn't have to be a presentation. It could be a job interview. It could be a networking. I just use the word presentation because that's mainly what we do at Ideas on Stage.
So let's use the example of black. There's a lot of black in the world, and we associate black with mourning. So if we ever see like a hearse and a funeral party, you know, it automatically makes us feel, oh, kind of a bit sad. That's, you know, and that color black can create that in the same way that, like we talked about earlier, that yellow of the sunshine. I think there's something about it being appropriate, wearing what's appropriate for the event and the situation, and actually having an awareness. But I think business clothes have changed so much over even in my working life, 25-ish years. And if you think about it, think about like the city, down in the city, where they used to always wear bowl hats and very smart and kind of, there was certainly a uniform, whereas now you go into the city and anything really goes. There's a lot more open shirts, whereas there used to always be a tie. And actually the way we dress has really evolved as well with where we're working. You know, there's a lot more home working, but I think you can very much, goes back to that first impression before you said a single word. If you were doing a job interview and you pop up onto a screen, and I'm coaching someone who has an interview this week, and we've talked about what he's going to wear, because before you have said a single word, they will have looked at you and made some form of judgment. And I think whether that, so like you say, whether it's an interview or a public speaking, you're being judged on what you clothes. It's a universal language. We mostly all wear clothes all the time.
Yeah, I like that. And let me just connect it to something that's also very relevant to what we do. Because, for example, when we also work with our clients, say, for example, that we prepare an important presentation. One of the many things you need to consider is your ability to, I would say, hook your audience, to capture their attention at the very beginning. And in our work, we just do that mainly with what you say, with the message you communicate. And what I'm learning today is that you can also do that even before you say anything, which is really interesting.
But I think you could also do it if you were using slides, for example, or any kind of props. You can use that as well. And I think, maybe the background color of your slide, for example, could have an impact on how that person is responding to both you and to the beginning of your presentation. I also think audio can play a huge part, and I mean that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. And Emily, are there any? You told us a lot already, but any practical maybe do's and don'ts, things to do, things to avoid doing? Any practical pieces of advice that come to mind? Again, in terms of when it comes to wearing colors, maybe for speaking engagements.
I would say start small. It's not like me in my red dress. I am really comfortable with this because I've been wearing it for a number of years, and it's not for every personality. There'll be some of your listeners and watchers will be like, there is no way I would ever dress in that way. It's not me, it's not my style, it's not my personality. But actually you can, as I said, you can go really, really small to a tie, if you have to wear a tie, or jewelry, or a scarf. Even what you wear underneath your clothes can have a degree of power. So you can think about it in that way. I would say you have to be comfortable. There's the last thing you want to be doing if you are doing a presentation or a job interview is fiddling and moving and being uncomfortable. So actually, ignore the size. If it doesn't fit properly, size up, or size down, whichever way it needs to go. But actually the most important thing is that you're focusing on what you're saying and your delivery, which obviously is what you work on, and not on whether your outfit is comfortable or too big, too small, etc., etc. So definitely go for comfort. I'd do things like, if your interview, no matter what, interview or presentation or meeting or whatever it is planned the night before. Don't leave it to the moment, 10 minutes before you're supposed to leave the house. It's something that I do really naturally, but I know a lot of people don't. But actually get that outfit on, try it on, put it out, lay it out, so that actually you can keep your focus on the most important thing, which is obviously delivering interview, presentation, whatever it might be. So those are really small things that you can do today. We've all probably got something coming up in the next few days that we could actually do a little bit of preparation. Am I comfortable? Does it fit properly? And actually plan it in advance.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. And also, as you were talking, another question came to mind, which is now at the moment, because of what happened last year, of course, things are hopefully gradually changing, but there are many more online presentations, or in general, if we think about communication, still today in most parts of the world, most communication is still happening online.
Mm-hmm.
So are there any differences to be aware of when it comes to communicating online versus communicating face-to-face? So it could be on-stage presentation, on screen. Again, connected to what we've been talking about so far, colors.
So there's a few things here. I would say, I think I've already demonstrated that a brighter color like I'm wearing today really helps you jump out. So if you are in a sea, if you're on a webinar or something like that, where there's either a sea of no camera on, which I find really difficult, and I'd had to do a webinar recently with no cameras on, and it was like talking into the ether. I felt like I didn't know who I was talking to. But actually, if everyone has got the cameras on, the chances are a majority will be in a neutral, whereas you as the presenter, maybe you as wanting to make a point, it's really worthwhile getting something a little bit brighter. And as I say, it could be a scarf. It doesn't have to be the whole shebang. And you're simply creating a presence. That's one thing. And then I had the other thing I think about the online thing, which I think is really important, is we are not used to seeing ourselves so much. We are just not used to looking at our own physical features all the time. So if that is something that is really tricky for you, turn off your self view. Don't, like, when you're having a conversation face to face with someone, you don't see your own face, your own features, your own hand gestures. I've got a lot of them. So actually, really good thing. I know it can be done on Zoom very easily. I'm not sure about the Teams type thing, but if you can turn your own self view off, once you know that your outfit is comfortable and you're feeling good, that actually you can concentrate on the conversation in hand rather than scrutinizing your hair and how you are presenting yourself. And actually, it makes it a much more intimate conversation, like you're talking to the person like you would in real life.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I do it also all the time myself. I always turn it off, except when I'm giving a proper online presentation in front of an audience, even if it's online, because in those situations, but this is just me, it works for me. I want to just make sure that I'm there, maybe on the top left corner, and I know I want to be in control. But in all the other situations, it's really important. You're right. Now maybe we spend maybe 8 hours a day, one Zoom meeting after another, and as you said, we are not used to looking at ourselves so much, and that's a great tip. Okay, and also something else, Emily, and again, I don't know if this question goes anywhere, but if we think about cultural differences, now, for example, we talked about your red or orange. Let's say ideas on stage, we are orange, we want to be friendly and energetic. Now, does that apply everywhere in the world, or are there any differences, cultural differences related to color that we need to be aware of?
There are, and they are wide-ranging. As part of my training, we had to do a little bit of research into what different colors mean in different places. And I think if you were working in an area where another part of the world, for example, it would definitely be worth looking up, and our friend Google comes into play here, as to what colors, different colors mean. So for example, white is a color that we wear to get married, but it's actually a color, I think in India, in certain parts of India, it's the color of death. So actually, it can play differently. So you can never do too much research, just to make sure you're culturally kind of sensitive. And that's where our friend Blue often comes in very handy, because actually it is, I feel it's quite a safe color. And the reason, it's such a natural color, isn't it? It's, I know the sky isn't really blue, but actually it is the color that we color in blue and the sea. And that's why when you go to the sea on a beautiful sunny day, you probably feel a real sense of calm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And also, Emily, as we get closer and closer to wrapping up this conversation, do you have any examples of speakers? Maybe it doesn't have to be a speaker. If you've got somebody else in mind, that's fine too. If you've got a speaker in mind, even better. Somebody who does and it doesn't have to be famous. It could be somebody somebody does that particularly well, somebody who pays attention to the colors he or she wears because they have a good understanding of what the impact is between that and confidence, how you feel, how the audience feels. Anybody comes to mind?
Well, the Queen she plays the color game the best of anyone because she knows she needs to be seen. And she's a very important person in this country, and the events she goes to are often lots and lots and lots of people. But if you actually start looking, she wears the absolute rainbow of colors, and it's often head to toe in the same color. And it is very much there. She is the most important person there, and she is there to be seen, and she knows that that's her role. And interestingly, if you then look at when she is just at home, maybe they take more candid shots of her, Sandringham, Balmoral, whatever, she is in much muted colors because actually she's at home, she's doing her thing, she's not on show. And I think, I know she doesn't speak as much or even do as many public engagements, but if you look over the course of her life, she is like the color queen, in my opinion. And I know she's a very traditional style, especially, but my goodness, her kind of tailors and dressmakers, they absolutely get it right because that is her job. She's there as our head of state. So I think the Queen does it really well. I think a really interesting one I was also just thinking about when we think about uniforms is that someone like Steve Jobs always wore his turtleneck and jeans and was very underplayed what he wore, but actually what he was saying was often very, very dynamic. And obviously he was launching his very exciting products and the products really spoke for themselves. Barack Obama will always, always, always wear a blue suit. I don't know if that's the case now that he's no longer the president, but he would. And again, that was making easy decisions, but it meant that you knew what you were getting. I think interestingly, at the inauguration of Biden, there was loads of purple. And now purple's an interesting color because it was always linked to royalty, but it's a very, it's a kind of, there's a mystery and a luxury to it. But actually it's that between red and blue. So purple is a mix of red and blue. So actually it was almost a lot of those people who showed up in purple is like, we're starting a new era here. We've had a number of years of red and now we're going towards blue, but actually we're purple and we're a mix and we're trying to find the middle ground. So I thought that was a really interesting thing at the inauguration.
Fascinating. That's great examples. Thank you very much, Emily. And I'm always interested in books. I love reading. So I don't know if there is one, and there could be many, but if you think about books written on the power of color, what we've been talking about today, is there maybe one book in particular that you would highly recommend to our listeners today?
So where I trained at the London College of Style, the head of colour there is a lady called Jules Standish, and she has written a book called How Not to Wear Black. She wears the whole rainbow of colours. She's a really inspiring lady. She writes a lot, I think, for the Telegraph and Hello magazine, and she's always called on to commentate on fashion, on colour within big events and the such like. So How Not to Wear Black by Jules Standish would be a good one to look at. But you know what? Instagram is full and Pinterest is full. And I think you can get that kind of commentary and thinking by simply using kind of these free tools that we have. And if you have a curiosity and interest in it, look up the color wheel and look up what all the different colors mean, and it's all there. It's just about finding it and looking and being curious.
Yeah, and before we close, because you just mentioned the color wheel, and I'm familiar with it, but just in case somebody in the audience doesn't know what we're talking about, okay.
This is the color wheel. So this is the artist's color wheel. As you can see, I painted this as part of my course, and they jokingly said, "Oh, you just do it, you won't regret it." And honestly, I use it as a reference point so much. So as you can see, this is the artist's color wheel, and I started with the primary colors of red, yellow, and blue, and then in between blue and yellow is green, and in between red and yellow is orange, and in between red and blue is violet. So you've got your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary colors. And then actually, when it comes to putting outfits together, for example, triadic colors is when you use, so a triadic with my red dress would be maybe a blue trench coat and some yellow shoes or something like that, and that is incredibly dramatic, but you can do that throughout the color wheel. So we use the color wheel as reference all the time, and it's just this is, again, you on Pinterest and such like, you can find this kind of thing and use it, but it also obviously helps if you actually know which season you fit into, which is where color analysis comes into.
Thank you for the explanation. And let me just add something quickly for our listeners. Because if we've got somebody who's interested in this, and today we've talked about mainly the colors we wear, but in general, color has a very powerful plays a very powerful role in communication in general, also from a design perspective. You mentioned before, Emily, you can also think about the background color of your slides, or even if you are not a graphic designer, then just knowing the color wheel and complementary colors, analogous colors, what colors work well with what colors, then that would be very useful also for people's ability to even design great presentations, which is not what we talked about today, but again, it's color in general. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so I'm sure a lot of people who listen to your podcast also business owners and have a brand of their own. So what does that brand and the colors that you use say about you? Again, first impression. Often people might come to your website before they've actually spoken to you. So they will make a judgment based on what they see and how that is presented. So it's so powerful. And the background behind you, I mean, I've got a map, you've got some books. It can just play to so many parts of life, and then you can also use it in your home, even in a personal sense, so things like green is a great color for kind of a room where you maybe, if you're working, I don't know, you're a therapist and you work, and green is a great color for kind of supporting, calming people. There's just so many ways to cut it. It's a really interesting topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emily. Lovely conversation. And if anybody's interested, curious, if they want to learn more, or if they want to connect with you, what should they do? Where can they find you?
So my website is my name. It is emilybal.co.uk. And my Instagram is where I do a mix of around confidence, the coaching work that I do, career evolution, CVs, but also color. So all the C's. And that is on Instagram, that's at emilybal.confidencecoach. It should come up if you just put my name in. So thank you. It's been a real joy to talk about it, and I would be very happy to talk some more if anyone ever wants.
No, thank you, Emily. And is there anything else? Maybe is there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience? Maybe is there a question that you wanted me to ask you and I didn't do it? Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
So I've just got a quote, And it was from Muccia Prada. I don't know. Muccia?
Yeah, Muccia Prada.
And she said, what you wear is how you present yourself to the world, especially today when human contacts are so quick. Fashion is an instant language. I'll leave you with that. It's really, I think that thing about first impressions, thinking about what you're saying before you say anything, I think that is a something to really think about.
Think about what you're saying before you're saying anything. I love that. So that's a perfect place to end this conversation. So Emily, again, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciated it. And it's been great connecting with you, having a chat with you. I do hope that in the very near future, we can connect face-to-face as well, and perhaps in London. And in the meantime, all the very best with all your future projects and activities.
Thank you, Andrea. You'll be able to spot me because I'll be in my red dress.
All the best.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Ideas on Stage podcast, there are many more you might like, so please subscribe, leave us a review, and tell us what you think. You can find many more ideas on business communication at ideasonstage.com or by searching for Ideas on Stage on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and goodbye for now.